Thank you for the purchase of the Draft Commander, the premier tool for pump testing and training of fire apparatus. This video will guide you through the correct procedures for safe operation, care, and maintenance of the Draft Commander 3000. It is not necessary to disconnect the Draft Commander from the vehicle. Drop and pin the tongue jack to take the weight off of the hitch. Drop the 4 pinnable jacks, install the safety pins, and crank the jack to take weight off the axles. All 4 jacks must be completely lowered to evenly distribute the weight. If you are not on a solid surface, use jack pads. It is recommended that the front of the Draft Commander is slightly higher than the rear. This will help keep the water inside the Draft Commander reservoir during testing, as well as aid in draining of the water from the reservoir at the end of the test. Make sure all valves are closed, especially the master drain valve, before filling the reservoir with water. Close the inlet manifold drains. These should remain open when not in use. Connect a 50-foot section of 3-inch hose to your water source, and then connect the other end of the fire hose to one of the 2.5-inch inlet valves located at the rear of the reservoir. Open water source valves slowly until line is charged. Open the inlet valve slowly to the desired fill rate, depending on inlet pressure. Remember, do not fill the reservoir too fast or overflow the reservoir. There are some other things you can be doing while the reservoir is being filled. Close the 2.5-inch fill valve when tank is at operating level, as indicated by the blue label at the rear of the reservoir. When you decide which side of the Draft Commander you will be using, you can install the pitot station access steps. Make sure you check all vital engine fluids on the apparatus. And don't forget to check the pump transmission fluid. If any fluids are low, add the necessary fluids needed prior to testing. If pump gearbox or pump transmission fluid is milky, replace fluids and inspect gears for damage prior to testing. Take the Draft Commander 3000 master monitor station and place it in a position near the pump operator panel. Before performing the required dry vacuum test, completely drain the pump of all water. Install the vacuum gauge hose to the vacuum gauge hookup on the back side of the master monitor station. Remove the suction plug from the vacuum test ports on the apparatus pump panel. Install the thread end of the vacuum hose to the suction port. Remove any ball intake valves on the pump inlets. Secure the steamer inlet cap and tighten. Remove caps from all discharges. Make sure all discharge valves are in the closed position. Open the 2.5-inch auxiliary suction valves, but leave them plugged. Pull prime until a maximum vacuum of 22 inches is attained. To be in compliance with NFPA 1911-2017 standards, the apparatus should not lose more than 10 inches of vacuum in less than 5 minutes. NFPA 1911 requires that 22 inches of vacuum must be obtained to reach a maximum lift of up to 10 feet. A key point to remember: every inch of vacuum equals approximately 1/2 foot of lift. This vacuum requirement is for an altitude of 2,000 feet above sea level or less. Refer to NFPA 1911-2017 Standards, Chapter 21.7.6 for more information regarding this test. If the primer does not work properly, or if the pump and plumbing systems have excessive leaks and the pump will not hold prime, you will not be able to perform the test and the leaks must be fixed. After the dry vacuum test is completed and recorded, disconnect the vacuum gauge and hose. The next test is the tank to pump flow test. Install the master discharge gauge hose between the Draft Commander master monitor and the UL discharge port. Install one of the blue pitot pressure hoses to the corresponding pitot pressure gauge and pitot. Install the 1.5-inch tip to the pitot. If the truck was designed to flow 500 gallons per minute from the tank, you will need to acquire pitot pressure of 58 psi at 100 psi pump pressure to achieve the flow of 500 gallons per minute from the fire apparatus tank. You are now ready to install the 6-inch hard suction hose to the steamer inlet. The Draft Commander 3000 comes with the necessary adapters for smaller pumps. Place the apparatus approximately 8 to 9 feet from the side of the Draft Commander. Once the hard suction hose is securely attached to the apparatus, you must lower the suction hose support arm. This is the proper setup for running a pump test. The hard suction hose must be resting on the ground. Remove the 1.5-inch tip and install the correct tip for the test you are about to perform. If you are unsure, refer to the instructions on the Draft Commander Master Monitor Station. Connect the suction and discharge gauge hoses to the test ports. Now you are ready to start your pump test. Pull the primer to prime the pump and start the flow of water. The time to prime the pump shall not exceed 30 seconds if pump is rated at 1250 GPM or less. If the pump is rated at 1500 GPM or larger, the time to prime shall not exceed 45 seconds. Once the prime is obtained, utilize the throttle and discharge valves to acquire the correct pump pressure, pitot pressure, and GPM. See instructions on the Draft Commander Master Monitor Station for this information. For detailed instructions on flow, pressure, and timing requirements, please refer to NFPA 1911 2017 edition, Chapter 21.7.7.2 to 21.7.7.5. A complete set of readings shall be taken and recorded a minimum of 5 times during the 20-minute test for 100% rated capacity, a minimum of twice during the overload test if performed, and a minimum of 3 times during each of the 10-minute tests for 70% capacity and 50% capacity. The prescribed duration of the pump test shall not be started until the pump pressure and the pitot pressure are stabilized at the prescribed values. The engine should not be throttled down except when the hose, a nozzle, or the position of a transfer valve is being changed. If the flow rate or pressure readings vary by more than 5% during a particular test, the reason for the fluctuation shall be determined, the cause corrected, and the test continued or repeated. If your apparatus has a pressure governor, it is helpful to run the test in pressure mode. If the water temperature reaches 90 degrees before completion of the test, the technician shall utilize the integrated cooling system. You can flow cool water from the hydrant through the inlet valve. Warm water will enter the overflow tube and will exit through the warm water discharge valve. This will allow you to maintain a constant water temperature or even lower the water temperature in the reservoir. For the integrated cooling system to properly function, you must maintain the water level at or near the red water level label. For additional cooling, always raise the lid on the cooling tower. When the test is completed, disengage the pump. Open the vacuum breaker to lose prime and disconnect all gauge hoses. Remove the tip and place it back in the pitot tip box. Drain the inlet manifolds and the warm water discharge. Disconnect the 3-inch fire hoses. Reinstall the discharge caps and plugs. Stow the master monitor station on the rear of the Draft Commander. Be sure to fasten all retention devices. To disconnect the hard suction hose, secure the hard suction hose support arm. Disconnect the hard suction hose from the apparatus. Stow the hard suction hose and secure with retention devices. Drain the tank at the end of the pump test. Never transport the Draft Commander 3000 with water in the reservoir. Drain the warm water discharge. Raise and stow all jacks before transporting. For winterization, make sure the unit is completely empty and drained. This includes the reservoir, inlet manifolds, and warm water discharge. Lubricate the threads of caps and plugs with a dry spray lubricant. Apply 1 shot of white lithium to suction swivels. After extensive use, you will want to repack the wheel bearings. Test the battery for the trailer brakes regularly. Thank you for watching this training video. Please feel free to contact us with any further questions regarding the operation or maintenance of your Draft Commander.